Well, the FBI has now sent out a nationwide alert on the Maura Murray case, which will help agencies from across the country better investigate the case. As WBZ's Lisa Greshy reports, Murray's family says they're hopeful that this will help crack the cold case wide open.
Maura Murray was more than just a name in the headlines. She was a daughter, a sister, and a young woman with a bright future. Born and raised in the South Shore of Massachusetts, she was the kind of person who could make a whole room laugh with her jokes. She teased her parents, she teased her siblings, and she did it all with a caring heart. Her brother remembers how, when he was far away serving in the military, Maura would send him small care packages and letters. She wanted him to feel supported, no matter how far from home he was. That was who Maura was, thoughtful and full of love. She was also known for her drive and talent. In school, Maura shined both in the classroom and on the track. She wasn't just athletic, she was exceptional. She ran cross-country and track, setting records at her school and in the state. Her natural gifts opened doors, and like her brother before her, she earned a place at the United States Military Academy at West Point. For many, this would have been a dream come true, but for Maura, the military lifestyle didn't fit her spirit. After 2 years, she decided to take a different path, transferring to the University of Massachusetts to study nursing. It was a major shift, but it showed her courage to follow her own heart, even when it meant walking away from something stable. Those who knew her describe her as brilliant, kind, and strong. She wasn't the type to give up easily. But behind that strength, there were also signs of quiet struggles, pressures that many young adults face as they balance expectations with their own desires. To her family, Maura was still their little sister, someone who loved deeply and cared about those around her. They never imagined that in early 2004, her life would take a turn that left them searching for answers even decades later. Maura's disappearance did not begin with her vanishing on a cold New Hampshire road. It began with the story of a young woman who had dreams, talents, and a family who loved her dearly. Before the mystery, there was Maura, the caring sister, the gifted athlete, the student with a future she was building step by step. And that is where her story truly begins. The mysterious drive north on the morning of February 9, 2004, Maura Murray made choices that would puzzle investigators and her family for years. She sent an email to her professor, claiming there had been a death in the family and that she would not be in class. But there was no death. That small lie was the first sign that something unusual was unfolding. After that, she packed belongings from her dorm room, clothes, textbooks, and personal items, almost as if she was preparing to leave for more than just a short trip. Later that day, Maura stopped at an ATM. She withdrew nearly all the money she had left in her account. The security camera showed her calm, acting as though this was routine. Then she drove to a nearby liquor store and purchased several bottles of alcohol. She placed them in her car, a black Saturn, before heading out onto the road. What she was planning is still unknown. Was it a trip to clear her head? Was she running from something? Or was she planning to meet someone? Her movements that day left behind only fragments of a trail. Investigators would later discover that Maura had used her computer to map a route toward Burlington, Vermont. But Burlington was not where her journey ended. Instead, she drove north into New Hampshire, a place familiar to her family. They had vacationed there many times, and Maura knew those roads like the back of her hand. By 40:30 p.m., she checked her voicemail for what would be the last time. Then, for 3 silent hours, there was no trace of her activity. No phone calls, no text messages, just her car moving north on winding, rural highways. At some point during that stretch of time, Maura left the comfort of the familiar and entered the shadows of uncertainty. No one knows exactly why she made this drive. To some, it seemed like an escape. To others, it looked like a carefully planned journey. But every action, the email, the cash withdrawal, the alcohol, the mapped route, added layers to the mystery. Maura Murray was heading north alone into the cold night. And what awaited her there would change everything. The crash and her sudden disappearance. By the evening of February 9, 2004, Maura Murray's journey north reached a strange and haunting turn. Around 7:30 p.m., in the small town of Haverhill, New Hampshire, her black Saturn veered off a dark, winding road and struck a snowbank. The crash was not severe enough to trap her inside, but it was enough to draw attention from people nearby. A local resident noticed the car and stopped to check on the young woman. He later said she looked shaken but not injured. She told him she had already called AAA for help. Though that claim could not have been true, there was no reliable cell service in that remote area. The man offered to call the police, and Maura insisted she was fine. Moments later, another neighbor also saw her near the car. She appeared nervous but steady, standing outside her vehicle in the freezing February air. What happened next remains one of the most baffling moments in true crime history. Within minutes of the first 911 call about the accident, police arrived on the scene. But by the time they got there, Maura was gone. The car was locked, airbags deployed, windshield cracked, and a rag stuffed oddly into the tailpipe. Inside the vehicle, officers found some of the alcohol she had purchased, along with school books and belongings. But Maura herself had vanished into the night. No footprints were found in the snow leading away from the crash. No one saw her walking down the road or entering another vehicle. Her scent, tracked by dogs, followed the road for a short distance and then suddenly stopped, as if she had been picked up or disappeared into thin air. In less than 10 minutes, Maura Murray went from being seen alive and talking to strangers to becoming a mystery no one could solve. That brief window, those few silent minutes, would haunt investigators and her family for decades to come. The search, theories, and families' fight for answers. When police returned to the scene of Maura Murray's crash that night, her car was still there, but she was gone. What followed was confusion, hesitation, and what many call a critical lost opportunity. The first hours after someone vanishes are the most important, yet Maura's disappearance was not treated as urgent. Police believe she may have simply walked away, or even chosen to leave her life behind. To her family, this was unthinkable. By Tuesday morning, Maura's relatives were notified. Panic spread as they realized no one knew where she was. Her father, Fred Murray, rushed to New Hampshire, desperate to find answers. He immediately asked where the search was, but what he found was frustrating. Very little had been done. So Fred himself began searching the woods, the roadsides, and nearby homes. Neighbors joined in. Volunteers combed the snowy ground, and eventually dogs were brought in. The dogs followed Maura's scent briefly down the road before it suddenly ended in the middle of the street. To many, this suggested she may have entered another vehicle. From the start, theories began to swirl. Some believed Maura staged her disappearance to escape personal troubles. Others thought she was a victim of foul play, perhaps taken by someone passing through the isolated area. Another possibility was that she wandered into the woods, injured or disoriented, and succumbed to the freezing temperatures. But no footprints, no tracks, and no evidence were ever found to support that. The Murray family pushed hard against the idea that she simply chose to vanish. They fought to keep the case alive, urging law enforcement to treat it as a possible crime. Frustrated with the lack of progress, they also turned to the public, sharing Maura's story online, launching a family-run website, and speaking to the media. Over the years, they faced rumors, misinformation, and even cruel speculation from strangers on the internet, but they refused to give up. For the Murray family, every day without Maura was a battle against fading hope. They held on to the belief that someone, somewhere, knew the truth about what happened that night. 2 decades of waiting and unanswered questions, nearly 20 years have passed since Maura Murray vanished, yet the mystery remains as deep as ever. Her family has endured countless false leads, from rumors of hidden remains in basements to discoveries of human bones later proven unrelated. Each time hope would rise, only to be crushed again. Fred Murray, her father, spent years searching the woods himself, never letting go of the belief that answers were out there. The case has drawn worldwide attention, fueled by documentaries, podcasts, and online forums. But that attention has also brought pain, speculation, misinformation, and endless theories that often overshadow the human story at the center of it. For Maura's loved ones, the question is not about sensational theories. It is about finding their daughter, sister, and friend. Despite all the years, one fact remains: Maura Murray is still missing. No matter how much time passes, her family insists they will never stop searching, never stop asking, and never stop fighting for the truth. Maura Murray's story is one of the most haunting mysteries of our time. A young woman with dreams and potential, gone in a matter of minutes, leaving behind only questions. Her family has carried the weight of uncertainty for 2 decades, refusing to let her memory fade. As we reflect on this case, one thing is clear: Maura is more than a mystery. She is a person who deserves answers. If you found this video powerful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay with us as we explore more true crime stories. Now we ask you, after all the clues, theories, and years of searching, do you believe Maura chose to disappear, or was she the victim of something far darker?